everybody. Wow, this is such an awesome turnout. This means so much to me because just about every one of you I know and love, and I'm so touched. So really cool. So thank you. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is there are 4 of you who purchased a book that has a tarot card tucked into the first page. And look in your first page, because if you have a tarot card, that means you will get a free reading from me. So we have one there, and I know our friend and Trina and Chris, and then our friend Kurt, who's out there in the hallway. Awesome. So after all is said and done, I will give you a free reading here, unless you need it privately, in which case we could do it on the phone. That would be fine too. We can just see how the night goes with all the book signing and everything. So I'm going to read a chapter or 2, or even 3, because 2 of these chapters are really, really short, and we'll just see how interested you guys are, and how time goes. But for sure we'll get one complete story. Okay. So thank you for being here again. So I did a test run with my great friend Agnes on a couple of these, and she thought that The Lovers would be a really good story. So that's the one I'm going to share. So I brought some enlarged tarot cards, so if you want to see what the Lovers card looks like, you will see me referring to parts of this picture and some of the meanings. And so if you want to get a close-up look after, you can do that too. But can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. So this is chapter 6, The Lovers. My tarot client wanted something a little more upscale than Starbucks. I felt a little ridiculous walking into that swanky restaurant in my puffy winter jacket with my tarot card box in both hands, like I was taking up a collection for charity. My client said she preferred somewhere quiet and promised to compensate me for my extra time and travel. It felt surreal to step through the heavy glass and brass doors, leaving a 10-degree St. Louis winter wind chill outside, and into a posh steakhouse that piped in cool jazz music behind palm trees and planters. It was about 3 in the afternoon, not lunch or dinner time, so the eyes of all the hosts and servers rested upon me as I approached the front desk. I'm meeting, I glanced down at my phone for the unfamiliar name. Ifananya? The Lover's card depicts a naked Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, suggesting vulnerability, exposure, and innocence. In the Garden of Eden, man and woman lived purely as animals, with no egos, no knowledge, and no shame. I felt a little awkward in this fancy establishment, as if I were only wearing a fig leaf. "Right this way, madam," said the trim young hostess, who was wearing a black shirt and slacks. She escorted me to the table of a glamorous African woman of indeterminate age. This flawless woman sat fiddling with a smartphone over an empty place setting of linen and white china. Because I read smart, I have to keep my whistle wet. All right. "Hello," the woman greeted me. She stood and shook my hand loosely. "I am Ifananya. Call me Nani." Her accent sounded as if she'd had a British education. "My goodness, you're beautiful," I said aloud, unprepared for her gorgeousness. I was glad I had at least worn a dress under that bulky winter coat. Ifananya's thin fingers felt cold and soft as I shook her delicate hand. The Lovers may be the most alluring card in the tarot deck, and it is one of the most famous in the major arcana. It is colored with a glorious yellow sun over the red-winged shoulders of Archangel Uriel, one of the cherubs who presided over Adam and Eve before their expulsion from the garden. White cumulus clouds support the angel in his holy purple robes against the backdrop of a bright blue sky. In all my years of reading the tarot, this is the card that everyone wants to see. We may have concerns about health, money, or career. But if it came down to one question, it's love that everyone wants to know about. Get anything you want. My treat, Nani said. She pushed a menu across the crisp white table linen. I'll just have a decaf coffee, I said. For a fast and undisciplined moment, I fantasized about plowing into the warm buttered rolls the server had just put in a basket before us, and maybe a crab cake sandwich and a salad, but I couldn't be doing someone's tarot reading with food in my mouth, especially not for this elegant woman. On the lover's card, Eve gazes up toward the angel. She is equal in both position and size with her Adam. The lover's is a card of balance and the union of opposites. Eve is not an evil temptress, despite the Bible's literal message. Many mystics, and I, do not take the Bible literally. We theorize that Adam, the man, represents the conscious mind, and Eve, the woman, represents the subconscious. As it takes male and female to create a child, the unity of the conscious and subconscious creates our outer lives. This is why a woman must be subservient to her husband in the Bible. It's a metaphor for the subconscious mind taking orders from the logical, rational side. Yet the two are one. Everything about Iphigenia, Nani, was impeccable. Perfectly braided and wrapped hair, a model's figure, a striking face with smooth, dark skin and high cheekbones, sparkling eyes and teeth. She was thin, tall, and exquisitely glamorous. Nani didn't wear much jewelry, save for one knockout sapphire ring on her elegant hand with its manicured red nails. There are the new millionaires and wannabes who love all the showy designer labels and attention, and then there are the more subtle, well-moneyed types who live in quiet elegance. Nani was one of the latter. When I looked closer, I could see she had slightly smeared black eyeliner, revealing that she had been crying. I have been searching for the right psychic, she announced, admitting that she had done her research on me. She learned of my books and even read some of the poems I had published. She combed the reviews online and saw a couple of my interviews with the local media. I knew that I would be her regular tarot card reader before I even arrived, because she had felt very straightforward when we first talked on the phone. Iphigenia didn't seek party entertainment, fortune-telling, or a lot of New Age platitudes. She needed someone with some actual tools to manage her life and no bullshit. I could give her that. The angel of God rises above the lovers on this tarot card, blessing the union. In the older decks designed by the Italians and French during the Renaissance, the lover's card depicts the myth of a young man named Paris having to choose a partner from 3 goddesses. The mischievous angel Cupid sways Paris to choose Aphrodite, goddess of love, with one of his charmed arrows. The others are the more sensible women, Athena, goddess of war and power, and Hera, goddess of the earth and wealth. Because of this old meaning, the lover's card is often just as much about choice as it is about finding true love, and there is definitely a component of eros and sexual attraction to this card. This choice is to be safe and secure, or take a risk. The lover's card knows that we are like teenagers, weak and often not sensible when sexual abandon overtakes us. It's a wild and often vexing ride, but we love it. I have seen 8 different psychics in the last 8 days before my appointment with you, Nani said. She had dismissed them all after 1 session. Nani said that she was in her late 40s, but she didn't look a day over 30. The lover's card depicts 2 trees, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, positioned behind Eve, and the tree of life, bearing 12 flame-like fruits behind Adam. Eve's right hand absent-mindedly reaches toward the snake as it twines around her tree, a message that we can never return to innocence, and the animal kingdom that we can never return to innocence and the animal kingdom once we know the truth. We are exiles from the garden because of our knowledge, not because we are evil. Sometimes, to know romantic desire feels worth giving up all the comforts of an easy life. Nani called herself a simple, natural girl, and so she claimed to be embarrassed to tote around her black mink coat with her, but it had been a fierce Midwestern winter, and she was used to a warmer climate. She dropped a few morsels about her life. She was born in Nigeria to a prominent family and studied at MIT. She met Steve Jobs while traveling in India, studying Zen, and found herself working at a creative little startup called Apple. She bought stock and held on to it until she became a multimillionaire, retiring at her husband's request in her 30s. She had 3 homes, one in Paris, one near her family in Abuja, and one where we were in St. Louis, to have a place with an international airport and first-class living in the middle of it all. I was surprised she didn't choose Chicago or New York, or maybe Rio or Tokyo above St. Louis. I soon learned that Ifananya was full of surprises, and that she had the fortitude and the money to do whatever she wanted. I asked Nani what she wanted to know. Was there a decision I could help her with? Was she seeking her path to enlightenment or trying to help others? I sensed she was stuck in limbo. This woman with everything still lacked peace of mind. The lover's card's lure is incompleteness, the idea that we can't be whole without another person, and that we are not fully actualized alone, which is ridiculous. We would never look at a newborn baby, a perfect soul, and say they needed a lover to be fully human. There is always inadequacy, impossibility, and imperfection around the idea of romantic love. All romantic love has a shadow side, and the ancient myths clarified that romance did not necessarily have anything to do with sensible marriage arrangements. Tell me what you see around my love life, she directed, choosing the black and white hermetic tarot deck from my box as the one that would best speak for her. Some people see this deck as frightening with its lack of color. Others see it as direct. My male clients tend to choose this deck more than the women. It's a black and white world. I want black and white answers, Nani said. When a married person asks about their love life, I know there is usually a cause for concern. I laid the cards down and soon saw that Nani's life was full of drama. There was the King of Cups, the lovers, and the devil, all in reverse. That's upside down, if you know your tarot. She confided then that her marriage of 21 years had never been consummated. The Two of Cups showed that her husband, Frederick, is her best friend, but his moon in reverse and that devil card again revealed that he had a very dark side. With added cards and Nani's comments, I learned that he had a taste for S&M, suffered from STDs, and had a propensity for sexual binges, occasionally with men. Despite this, Nani had been faithful to him for many years until she met a man in St. Louis. That man was a sexy and fun King of Wands who had just died, judging by the terrible 10 of Swords. In my bed, she said, patting at her shining dark eyes with a tissue. On the lover's card, Adam and Eve's hands are open, receptive to influence from above. The angel represents God's help and can signify that assistance may come from unexpected sources. And yet, we remember that Eve's right hand nearly touches that serpent. There is ever the potential for our subconscious to turn toward temptation. And love, that's the ultimate temptation, right? Like the exile from the garden, love has a relationship with death. When love shows up, it says, your old life is over, and you'll never be the same. The Hierophant card revealed that Nani's St. Louis lover was also married. The Page of Swords, reversed showed a scandal about her attending his funeral and the subsequent difficulties communicating with his grown children and family friends. This was a 10 of Cups reversed funeral ceremony. Everyone was upside down and in so much grief. Nani was in self-torment, feeling guilty because she was the other woman, and even guiltier for wanting to be loved. The cumulus clouds on the lover's card suggest that through an initial attraction, something takes form. The result is either love or a lack of love, depending on if the card is right side up or upside down. The lovers, therefore, can be the greatest joy or suffering. I have found that, directly or indirectly, every problem my clients have ultimately comes down to being an issue of love. The spiritual doctrine, A Course in Miracles, says that there are only two things in all creation, love and fear does not exist. I sat with Nani in the restaurant for 3 hours. "You are frighteningly honest," she told me. "It's a little scary, but that is just what I need right now." Ifenanya was not the first to tell me that. Some people are uncomfortable with my directness and even my own vulnerability and personal sharing. I want them to know we are all one, and they are not alone. "I have been there," I said, "in that place where I had so much shame and pain because all I wanted was to be loved. Yet I did not feel that I deserved love. I knew it in my head, but not in my heart. I have sought love in the wrong places and with the wrong people too. So many of us have, although most don't talk about it. You are not alone in this. My vulnerability is my greatest strength, in this work anyway." If you look at the equality meaning of the lover's card, then the cure to problems of love is love. But true love begins with the self, and that's an old trope that is the last thing a hurting person wants to hear. They want to search outside themselves for a quick fix, so they find facsimiles of love and love-like experiences that tend to be impossible to resist, and then come tearing apart, hurting all the more. "How much do I owe you?" Nani asked when it was all over. She had already bought me coffee and offered to buy me a carry-out lunch and dinner, which I declined. She paid me more than double my rate in cash. "I hope this will be enough. Let's work again soon." Another quick drink. She handed me a generous handful of $20 bills, artfully folded so that I could count them in groups of hundreds. After that, I saw Ifenanya in spurts and phases. She had manic periods where she was infatuated or broken-hearted by men usually far beneath her social status. She fell for the firefighters, for the fishermen, and the dance instructors, who all took her gifts, money, and body when she let them. She fell for narcissists, users, and abusers. I soon learned that it was Nani's standard practice to pay everyone double or even triple their rates, and she seemed to seek out those who took advantage, insulted her, or disregarded her feelings. I vowed to myself to never abuse her generosity, and when I doubled my rates a year later, I did not tell her, knowing she would still overpay me in any case. Perhaps I was a fool, because I knew that she could surely afford it, but I could not be one of those people in her life. I was always well compensated by Nani. Ifenanya's readings were invariably and unfailingly about men, of course. She did everything to assist her lovers and would-be lovers, to better their lives and give them what they needed for their success. They rarely considered her happiness in return, or else they did it in that narcissistic mode of occasional love bombs, of homemade cards and gifts, but nothing consistent enough that she could count on it or feel secure. Nani was often alone, feigning strength and hiding her bitterness and melancholy behind a glamorous exterior. Through occasional treats from her lovers, like a drug that sometimes gets you high, but mostly just keeps you steady, Nani was addicted to love. She was starved for love, but why did she perpetually seek the darkest and most evil men to give it to her? The biblical character of Adam, on the lover's card, was formed out of the mud of the earth. As Adam is our forefather, we are all soiled, children of dirt, risen and molded by God from the slime and muck of the world. "Tell me about your father, Nani," I asked her so many times. Nani usually responded with a brief statement about his success, his irreproachable character, and that he was an influential, well-respected man. He was practically a king in Nigeria, and possibly more powerful. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. A heterosexual woman's father generally imprints upon her what a man's love looks like, and she will spend the rest of her unconscious life either seeking to duplicate it if it was happy, or correct it if it was deficient. When I laid down Nani's cards, her father was at the heart of her Celtic cross spread on every occasion, but forever upside down, causing inconsolable torment that she carried into her life every day. Across our many readings, had I misread these mean and broken kings somehow? Continuously? It keeps coming back to your father, I said again with a shrug. All of the wicked men in your life are revealed to be an echo of him. By the time of this reading, Nani had been my client for more than 4 years. But now, Nani's aging mother had fallen ill, and in this weak moment, she revealed the key. Please don't tell me anything you see around my mother, she requested, changing the subject. I couldn't take it. My mummy is the most important person in my life. When I was a toddler, my father beat me almost to death, a few times. After the last event, Mummy took me away to protect me and gave up her very prosperous life to ensure my safety. Now it all made sense. I adored Nani then. I have since continued to work with her and coach her towards seeing how her father subconsciously called the shots in her love life. It was easier for Nani to look at his darkness after he passed, or it may have been more challenging, as she had great battles with family in executing his complicated estate. I think leaving her that mess was his last attempt to hurt her, but she got through it all and discovered her strength, and I pray one day that she will find a love that doesn't have to hurt so badly. Our parents are our first models of authority, so they set the tone for what God feels like. If we do not feel that our parents had our best interests in mind for love, safety, or happiness, we probably will struggle to believe in a God that wants the best for us. We get broken perceptions of love from this struggle. How can we see love in our lives if we don't fully believe in it? And so many of us, like Nani, have a subconscious theme controlling everything that says we are only safe when we do not allow ourselves to be loved. In the book of Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve begins with them falling asleep in the Garden of Eden. The exile of man and woman is all a dream. The entirety of our lives is an illusion. Nowhere in the book of Genesis, or anywhere else in the Bible, does it state that Adam and Eve ever awoke from that dream. When will we awake? When we are in love, we want to stay asleep forever.